So today we're not building a beautifully handcrafted bed frame, and we're not making a sleek modern shelf. We're going to be making the ultimate childhood weapon for a fully grown adult.
Why are you building a weapon?
I got asked to make a slingshot for a bloke, and I don't know what he's intending to use it for, and frankly, I don't really care. All I know is that his girlfriend asked me to make it for his birthday, which is in 4 days. And I'm a man who likes wood, so I said, of course I'll make it. So let's turn a completely normal, innocent, non-threatening piece of wood into a menace against aluminium cans. Let's go. Alright, so we're going to be using 2 species of wood. These were some little veneers I cut quite a while ago from a 2x4 pallet. I'm actually not sure what type of wood they are, but there was 2 shades. So I've got this deep red, and then I've got this really light color. They're pretty hard, so they should be really good. And then I picked up this from the scrapyard, and it's spotted gum, so it should come out really, really nice. I think all 3 of these colors are gonna look great. So let's cut it all up and work out the layers, how we're gonna be ordering it and gluing it all up. There's no real plan. We're just gonna be winging it the whole time, and we'll see what comes out of it. Hopefully it'll be great. So I brought the spotted gum over to the drop saw, made my first cut, and noticed that the wood inside was a lot lighter. To be honest, I was pretty bummed about it, as I wanted the majority of the handle to be darker wood with light accents. So hopefully it will darken up in the finishing process. And as I was cutting this wood and organising it into its colours, I asked myself, what is it about boys and making weapons? Is it some primal instinct? Is it because we watched too many cartoons of Dennis the Menace where a slingshot was an extension of his arm? Or is it simply because it's a creative outlet with a purpose? I mean, even tying an elastic band around a Y-shaped branch when you're 10 is a beautiful piece of craftsmanship, but it's also designed for one thing, to hit a target and cause damage. And the other day, my 2.5-year-old son picked up a stick, held it like a shotgun, and ran around yelling, bang, bang, bang. And 3 very different thoughts hit me all at once. First, I burst out laughing, wondering where on earth he learnt that. I don't own a gun, and I don't play Call of Duty, so I was baffled. Then I felt a wave of nostalgia, a flashback to the carefree days of my own childhood, trying to turn anything and everything into a weapon. Finally, a darker thought crept in. What if he becomes a serial killer? It made me wonder if it's nature, not nurture in this moment. Is there hunting instinct still embedded in us, or is it something frowned upon in our more sensitive modern age? So that's all glued up. We're gonna leave it for 24 hours to dry, and then we're gonna work out the shape of it. So I'm just gonna make a little stencil, cut it out. We'll just clean it up and we'll see how it looks. I've never done a glue up before, so I'm pretty excited to see how it comes out. I'll see you tomorrow. So it's a new day, and it feels great to be jumping back on the tools after 6 months away in the van. Using your hands to be creative is a great outlet for me. It helps the mind and is an escape where you're just thinking about what's in front of you. No stressing about bills or your next dentist appointment, it's just you and the wood. And I think us as humans need creativity, whether it's sewing, painting or playing music. The feeling of accomplishment gives you a high. And I hear people say, well, I'm not creative, I can't draw. And to be honest, nor could Da Vinci when he was 1 week old. But he learned. And if it's not drawing, then have you tried jewelry making? Probably not. So how do you know that you don't have creative abilities in these crafts? The first time I converted a van, I was stoked on how it came out. And looking back now, as my skills have developed, I'm proud of the noticeable progress I've made over the years. My point is that it's easy to say you can't, but when you really try, and you get a little better each time, you start to notice your hidden abilities. Start off by making something you would really love, and with that desire of wanting that thing, you'll give it your all to make it as good as you possibly can. Oh, so the glue didn't hold. It's all just falling apart. I don't know if it's just because I used really cheap wood glue, but I'm gonna have to start again. And I've got 2 days to make this, so yikes. So I found this solid slab, which was an offcut of a bench top that we made. There's not many checks and cracks in it, so it should be perfect for building this slingshot. It's very thick, it's very solid, so it should be able to hold a lot of the tension from the band. So I'm now just going to stencil it out and then use a jigsaw to cut out the rough shape. The customer sent me a reference photo of the shape she was looking for. So with the stencil, I freehanded the rough shape and folded the piece of paper in half and then cut it out to make a symmetrical shape. I thought the slingshot in the photo looked beautiful, and that's what fueled the motivation for this piece. But the idea of creating something I can truly say is beautiful seems distant in my mind. I always find something I don't like. When you know the process of how something's made and you spend hours upon hours making it, you lose the identity of its finished form. I don't see a chair, I see how I could improve on the joinery. And if I had gone with a different shape on the arms, would it have felt better? The word perfectionist comes to mind. And it doesn't really mean you have to make things perfect. Instead, you easily find flaws. Now, you don't have to act on it. You can leave it with the opinion of being rubbish. But acknowledging that dissatisfaction is, in essence, perfectionism. Sometimes it helps to step away from your work, put on a suit and tie, and walk back into the workspace pretending you are looking at the Titanic for the very first time. Is it the ship of dreams? Or are there design flaws that will later on lead to tragedy? So that is as rough as we can get our rough cut. There's still a lot of work to do. Jigsaws suck, so I had to use a drop saw, but that means there's a lot of space that needs to be carved out. I couldn't really think of any other option to take off this extra material. The jigsaw needs to stick to the naughty corner, just cutting cardboard, because he was not equipped for this job. So I thought I could just slide it along the table saw, making one little cut at a time. The second rough cut is done. So now, gonna get grinding. The majority of hours spent on this piece was shaping. An 80 grit sanding disc on my grinder took most of the weight off. And this tool really chews off the wood so you can get your rough shape fairly quickly. Once I was happy with this stage, it was then on to refining the contours. I jumped in between using a belt sander and a hand file. And to be honest, I wish I had a tool in between the grinder, which was pretty aggressive, and the hand file, which took a lot of time. Maybe one of those cheese gratery kind of files would have come in handy. But I'm working with what I have. And even though it was a lot of labour, it felt like I took my time to find the right shape. The last part was hand sanding, and I started off with an 80 grit paper and I moved all the way up to a 240 grit paper. Now at this point the Slingshot was looking really cool, but it was time to make it even cooler. Now the customer wanted 2 engravings on the handle, so I fired up the wood burner, and on one side I made this trident and on the other side I burnt a star. And at this point, apart from the finish, I would class the Slingshot as done. So the last part of building this was to work out how the rubber of the sling was going to go onto the handle. And the only type of rubbers they had was an 8mm tube rubber. So that is what I had to do. I didn't have enough time to order one online, so I was working with what I've got. I drilled some 8mm holes in the handle, and I was going to work out how to attach it later on. And then the very, very, very last stage of the handle was oiling it up. I used a satin varnish. I didn't want it to be too shiny, but I didn't want it to be matte, so it gave it a little bit of a shimmer in the sun, and I just rubbed it on using a scrap microfiber cloth. And I found that microfiber cloths really help to rub in any stains and any oils. It doesn't leave it streaky, it works into all the nooks and cracks, and it's so soft to use. And the varnish isn't just to give it a shiny little coat, it also gives it a waterproof layer. So if you're out there in the wilderness and the rain starts to pour, you don't have to go home because mum's made you tea. But anyway, I found a solution for my rubber band. The plan was to thread them both through the handle, which turned out to be a little bit trickier than I thought because they were a really snug fit. I couldn't just push them through. And then I used these bolts and washers, and these are what's going to hold it all nice and tight. I had a lot of trouble coming up with this solution. I was probably in the hardware store for about 2 hours wandering down each aisle, but coming across these expansion bolts which I've used before in previous projects, I realised that they'd be perfect for this Slingshot. And the way they work in my mind is pretty bloody ingenious. You simply tighten up the bolt and it expands internally. So somebody needs to call the cops, because the Slingshot is done. The lucky guy who's getting this is going to be a man you don't want to mess with. But anyway, we ended up putting 2 or 3 coats of varnish on it. So I think it's time to try it out.
just about it for this video. If you're a naughty boy and you want to make a slingshot for yourself, I've left all of the tools that I use for this project in the description below. And if you do make a slingshot, just remember not to fire it into everyone's eyes. That would be very irresponsible and not fun. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure you give it a subscribe. Click that little bell thing if you want to. And leave a comment suggesting any more builds that you want me to make. If you've got a great idea, make sure you tell me. Stay safe, stay out of trouble, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya!